The left pass.
You don't find it if you keep flipping.
But if we can roll this charge, we got a half a point. Right? We can roll this charge. We get a half a point, and we explain this.
Yeah, you can do it.
I mean, draw it by memory.
Memory, you have to fix that.
Oh, don't need it right now. The whole thing? You don't need it?
So, congratulations.
Năm trăm bảy ra.
This one, is this where on?
They must actually.
Okay, we go. Ready?
Yeah.
Go. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let us continue to pray with insistence, with fervor for our brother Christian around the world, especially in Iraq and Syria. They are persecuted, they are killed because they believe in Jesus Christ. Let us pray for them. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Mary, seek the wisdom.
Pray for us.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
So today we attack the central chapter in philosophy. And Father Gunn said it is the pivot of knowledge. The central question is how man can know the reality. That is the central question. And because of that, the philosophers take different direction according to their position. If their knowledge depends on the object, or if their knowledge depends on the subject. That means depend on the thing I know, sense experience, or depend on my mind first. So we adapt the position of St. Thomas and Aristotle, the position of Aristotle first, because St. Thomas only uses the position of Aristotle, because that's the moderate realism. And here we have that in your system. So what I will do, I will try to give you the synthesis of that subject, and almost everything is here. That was made by Father Iki. Yesterday he was here. I told him that we continue to use his chart. So, and many things you already know, but I will try to make a synthesis to situate how we know. So first, we saw in the preceding chapter that we attain the reality, we attain the thing, what is singular and material, sensible, what is in time and space, we attain that through our external senses. So to my sight, I attain the proper object of my sight, color, hearing, etc. So we saw that. And the thing enter my senses not with the atoms, but one aspect, but formal aspect, the form of color, the form of sound, and they enter. But each sense has no power to control, to unite to another. So we need a sense that has the power to coordinate all those sensations, so we can have a shape of a thing, the size of a thing, etc., to distinguish. So that first sensation here, when I coordinate that, the coordinating sense does not keep the image. The image is kept in the imagination. So the first time I see a thing, I have in my senses a physical and physiological modification. You know that. Huh? When you see, your senses receive some modification, stimulus or stimuli. Huh? So what I have now, I have of the thing a sensible impress species, the first time. And that is the first impression on my imagination. So the first time I see a thing, I smell a thing, I touch a thing, that impress my imagination. My imagination is the function of storing, of keeping, of conserving the images, first function. So that is the first. But I can use it for the past, for the future, you know. And when I come back on that impress, the first year, I have a sensible express species. That means I express to myself the smelling, the odor, the color, the texture of the thing, you know, and that is the phantasm. Okay, so the phantasm is the sensible express species. But the first time I receive a thing from outside, an impression to print on sensible impress species. Similitude, all those. Yes, brother.
Does that take place? Is the common sense?
Yeah, the common sense. I avoid the word common sense because it has another meaning.
Okay, so
I prefer coordinating sense.
So the coordinating sense takes the sensible impressed species?
No, he received he coordinate,
Mm-hmm.
and he has only the function of coordinating.
Okay, gotcha.
But it is the imagination which receives and keeps and uses that and transform that fiction. Okay, that we share that with Legault. That is the sensitive knowledge. Okay, now we can use those images for from the past. We can situate that as memory. We can use them for the future. It is estimative or instinct, and for man, it is estimative instinct with the intellect. We call that cogitative. So we studied that. We spent about 1 week, at least 2 weeks on that. Now, the problem is how we can pass from the sensitive or sensitive sensory or sensitive or sensory knowledge to the intellective or intellectual knowledge. That is the central problem in philosophy. The central problem. When you want to go to New York, at a certain time you have to, I took 95 south or 95 north. If I take 95 south, I go to New York. If I take 95 north, I go to Boston. So we have to make a choice, a switch, a corner. So that is the crossing road. I told you, I tell you, I repeat, that is the most important question. All the rest in philosophy depend on that. When you study history of philosophy, think about that. Why they are feel different things? Because the way man knows the reality. So someone, they say, we stop here. We cannot go farther than here. We know only the sensible reality. So we call them empiricists, or sensualists, empirists. Empiricists. And that is very Marx, for example, materialist, all the materialists, all the positivists, positivism, all those deny the spiritual reality, they stop here. They can go further. So they have no universal concept, they have a name. For example, John Dewey would say there is no universal concept, there is only universal name. And that comes from nominalism. There is no universal concept. But the word cat is not a concept, it's a word. And that word, that name, nom in Latin, nomen, we apply that to everything. Okay, so here we have Hume, David Hume. All the materialists are here. Auguste Comte, positivism, Marx, all those who deny spiritual reality, they stop here. Okay? Now, there is another position. Someone, they affirm, we cannot know from our senses. So we know only here. Our knowledge is essentially intellectual, essentially from my mind. I know not because I have a contact with things. I know because I am intelligent and my knowledge comes from my own mind. And that current is called idealism. We have a special current of idealism, is Plato, because the idea are the thing. We call that exaggerate realism. But the position of Aristotle is moderate realism, but we'll see why. So those who say, I know, I don't need my sense experience to know. The experience I know through my senses gives me nothing in my knowledge. They are only an occasion of knowing. I was told that you went to the store and you want to know what is a muffin. No? A muffin. You don't need that. Okay, so if I am a realist, a philosopher, although those people are realists, they are purely realists. They are not also, they don't accept the road of the intellect. They say, okay, I see a muffin, but I know only through my senses, and that's stop there. But if you have idealists, you have a Platonician, a disciple of Plato, you say, yes, that is a muffin. Not because I see it, because I have the memory, the reminiscence of the muffin I saw in my anterior life. We call that metempsychosis, reincarnation. In fact, Plato speaks about that. Yeah? He was a member of the Orphism, sect founded by Pythagoras. Orphism. And the Orphism, they explain that man, if he is not purified in his mind by mathematics, because mathematics are the mode of purification mind. So if we are not purified, we are punished. In our punishment, it is to be reincarnated, to be put again in a body. So he says, Meno, the slave Meno, or Menon, was able to answer a question in geometry without having he never studied geometry. And Plato says, he knows that because in his anterior life, he knows mathematics, That is interpretation. We cannot accept that. But we have, for example, St. Augustine. St. Augustine is here. And St. Augustine is saying, I don't need. God illuminates my mind. My intellect is illuminated by God. And Descartes says almost the same thing. A good magician put in my mind, I don't need my senses. So knowledge is only to recognize what we already know. Well, I think it's not conform to the reality. Because if really they know what the thing, why they are searching to discover the nature of things. If I have for example, today we have Ebola. If our ideas were innate, why we are searching to know what is Ebola? when I should see a man with Ebola, I should know what is it, because I have already the idea. You know, that theory cannot stick. We cannot accept that. But unfortunately, that theory has a very big influence in our society. Why? Because after Descartes, Descartes says, my idea comes from my mind. Okay, they are illuminated by God, but I know not because through my senses. I know because I have a mind. I reflect. Okay, I think, therefore I am. Okay, so the Descartes he referred to God to know, but after Descartes, people did not refer to God. So what happened? The philosophy of Descartes became rationalism. Ratio means reason. That means we can know everything through our own reason. So you know through your own reason, I know through my own reason, therefore I am right, you are right. I am okay, you are okay. What is that? Relativism. So that here leads to relativism. Here you see the extreme importance of philosophy. Sometimes when I was young, for me philosophy was babbling. It was a waste of time because I have a scientist's mind, but now I am a wise man. But I continue to be a scientist, but you know, I realize that in fact ideas lead the world. And if we are today in a world of relativism, capitalism, all those things, because of that, because of nominalism. Okay, so the problem is either you have, for the moment, on the side of empiricist, sensualist, or on the side of idealist. And Aristotle, who was the disciple of Plato, did not accept the theory of Plato. He was a scientist, don't forget. Plato was a mathematician. In mathematics are the second level of abstraction. They have no link with the reality. It's the reason why for Plato, the ideas are the real reality. And the real earth for us is only a shadow of eternal ideas. Aristotle was a biologist. His father was the doctor Alexander the Great, and himself, Aristotle, he is not anybody, he was very important, he was the preceptor of Alexander the Great. You know, Alexander the Great was one of the most important men in the history of the world. He was his preceptor, and he was always in connection with Alexander the Great. So that man was a realist. He had the 2 feet on the floor. He was married. Plato was a gay man, because he says that the most perfect love, it is not to love a woman, it's to love an equal. Because to love a woman, it is because at that time women were considered as inferior. You know, the division of Plato, the society was divided in 3 parts. The head, the heart, and the kidneys. The kidney. So, the head, philosopher. The heart, the warrior, and the kidneys, all the rest of the society. And of course, men. Men are here. Women are here, and children. Children and women are here. Emotion. That means they are only guided by the emotion. So for that, understand why Plato says it is the better love is to love an equal. It is better to love your brother than to love your cat. No, man, that is history of philosophy. I cannot change the history. I have tried to understand. So, but Aristotle did not accept that. He did not accept that. He loved his wife. He loved his wife, Eudemona. He loved his boy, his son, Nicomachus, and he wrote a letter for them, each of them. And that letter is still studied in university today. The ethics to Nicomachus. So Aristotle said, no, I don't have to to accept I did not existed before. That is, I don't accept that. He rejects the theory of Plato. And he said, I must know through my senses. That it was clear for him, I know through my senses. But my knowledge does not stop there. When I have the idea of cat, I don't have the idea of this cat. I have the idea of all cats everywhere. But the problem is, how can I explain that in a philosophical point of view, level? How? So he had the genius, that is the genius. The genius of Aristotle is here. He said, my intellect has many functions. For example, your hands are many functions, no? Huh? My intellect has many functions. He said, my intellect has the power to take from the thing. That is important to know, the theory of matter and form. You remember, huh? The form, it is the idea put by the carpenter into the wood. Huh? The form is the idea, is abstract, huh? is spiritual, but he put that. Now, knowledge, what is this? It is to take again that idea, to abstract the idea, and to put that in my mind. Abstraction. What is the word abstraction? Attraction is to owl, huh? To take from something from another. Abstraction, from. So to extract. In fact, abstract means to extract. Extract what? The form of the thing. So because things are made with matter and form. So what enter the mind, the senses, is not the matter, is the form. What enter the imagination is the form. But that form is sensible and singular. It is the form of the dog I saw when I was 5 years old, puppy. And that is here. It is singular. So it is not every dog. But how is it possible? I have the idea of every dog. I go to Sicily, I go to Athens, I go to Rome. I see dogs, I see dog. Why? Because I abstract. Why do I abstract? The form. In that dog, there is something I can detach from color, from quantity, and arrive only to the essential, what is a dog. Okay? That is said, it is the power of the intellect as agent, as active. My intellect has a power. And that power, it is not from God, it is not the power that God illuminate my mind or my reincarnation. It is in myself. I have the power of abstraction. And that power, we call illumination. The fantasy, the agent illuminates the fantasy, send the light. And that is abstraction. Well, abstraction is to send the light of my mind into a thing, into things in such a way I extract from the thing what they have in common, what defines them in general. The concept, what is the thing? Okay? To understand that, I can use an analogy. Maybe I spoke about that already. But for those who never saw a slide, because many among you, they never saw a slide. They saw only iPad. I have here a slide. You know what is a slide? It's a picture taken with the old Kodak. You know, old Kodak, not digital. No? And I have a picture here. But what do I need to see here, Mr. Robinstein? What do I need? Light. If there is no light, can I see? No. Can I project if there is no light in my projector? No. Now, I have the light. I have no slide. Can I project something? No. in Cameroon, sometimes, every 2 weeks, we give movies to the seminarian. 1 week were movies, 1 week were theater, 1 week theater. So, but sometimes, yeah, no movie. Why? Because we have the projector, we have no film. We were not able to have a film, so no movie tonight. Huh? But if you have that, that is singular. Huh? Singular. You cannot, the slide itself cannot project itself. So the slide corresponds to the phantasm. The phantasm must be illuminated by the light, and the light is the agent. Okay? But now, when I have a slide, I have a projector, what must I have also? Eyes, but also a screen. That means something receiving the picture. You cannot project. Okay, all people, my parish, come, my parish here, I will project movies. And the projector is set up among the stars of night. So you say, Father, you're crazy. Huh? We need a screen. What is the screen here? It is my PhAn intellect. My intellect can have many functions. One function is to illuminate, the other function is to receive. And that you do that continually when you reflect. When you reflect, it is exactly that. When you reflect, you have an experience, a sense experience. Suppose you break something, okay? You break something, you broke something, and you say, I reflect. What do you see? You put your intellect through that experience to find something from that experience. What is reflection? Reflection is to know at the second level. You know at the first level. You broke something. You broke, for example, your camera. You broke, I don't know what, your bicycle. Okay? So yeah, you reflect on that. And because you reflect on that, you have an answer coming back to you. Reflection is exactly that. My mind is illuminating, thinking, sending a letter through the experience, because what is the phantasm? The phantasm is the result of my experience. And now the fruit of that, the fruit of that illumination comes back to me. So I pass here from potency to act. I know. And that passage from potency to act is the insight. You remember Archimedes when he understood? He reflected on a fact, the fact he was floating, and he put his mind there, and the result came to his mind. He understood the principle of hydrostatic. He had the insight. That is the genius of Aristotle. And we call that moderate realism. Why? Because we need a res, thing in Latin is res, res. We need that, but we need also our intellect. We need both. Idealists, they don't need senses. They can't say, I cannot trust my senses. You know? The others say, I don't know through my mind, I know only through my senses. Here, we need both. We need our senses to have a slide, to have a phantasm. We need our intellect to abstract. From sensible singular, now we have abstract and universal. And the moment I understand, the moment I receive the light for the first time in my mind, it is the insight. And that we call that the intelligible impress species. You understand or you don't understand. 1 or 0, out or on. And that is the insight. Okay? Now, that insight is not only, is to be used. And now you use it, and when you use it, you refer to it. Mr. Archimedes went to the king, Arius II, and he has to explain to the king. So when he was on the street, that time he was with his pens, and he was thinking about that. He was expressing to himself. So when he arrived to the king, he was able to say that. So that expression of the insight to myself, it is the intelligible express species. It is what we call the concept, the idea or the mental world. I express that to myself. All that is my internal subjective knowledge. All that is happened in me at the speed faster than light. It's long to explain, but that is excessively fast. Yes.
So, Father, when you're talking about puppy to us, you're telling us about puppy, your memory of puppy. Are you?
I have the image of puppy, but because I can situate puppy in the past, I have also the memory of puppy. But when I think the phantasm of puppy. I abstract from the phantasm. Of course, the memory is made with phantasm.
Okay. I was just going to, but are you bypassing the intellectual knowledge because you're talking about a specific, you're talking about puppy, you're not talking about dog universally.
Yes, okay, but why I think about puppy? Because I have the sense experience of puppy. But at the same time, in my mind, I see that puppy is not a cat. I know that puppy is not a cow, is not a horse. Puppy is a dog. So when I say that, I am abstracted. In fact, every time you have a sensation accompanied with your mind, you use your intellect. You abstract. It is so fast, we don't realize that. In the proof of that, you can reflect on that. Why you can reflect on that? Because in the sense experience, you have already here abstraction. No? Every sensation has a value when it has a meaning. What gives the meaning? What discovers the meaning? It is your intellect. But many times we don't think about that, but we judge, we appreciate. Our mind is continually functioning. My heart function, my mind function when I am awake from 6:30 in the morning, or 5:30 or 4:30, I don't know, up to the time I go to bed. As long as I am attentive, I am attentive to what I feel. I know. I know. My experiences have a meaning. You go out, it is cold. What do? When you come back, you take a sweater. Why? Because you judge. It was cold. I need a sweater. Of course, you don't say that, but you work here. Your brain is a working machine. Not only your heart. My responsibility now is to make you aware of that. To make you aware that continually, when we are awakened, we reason, we abstract. My intellect is always illuminating my action. You go to the refectory, you eat, your intellect is illuminating your action. Is the reason why we don't act as animals. Human behavior is not identical to any animal behavior because of that here. Yes.
So in the concept, when you intellectualize and you have the concept, does that get stored in your memory?
No. Okay. Good question. The concept is spiritual. Is detached from. Here what is abstraction? Is to detach from every sensible characteristic to become universal. Not puppy, but every dog from the beginning to the end of the world. Okay? But that is very important. When you have a concept, your concept is attached to a sense experience. All our concepts start from our senses. Nothing in the intellect if first is not in the senses. So, a concept you have corresponds to a phantasm, corresponds to a sense experience. Of course, you don't think that all the time, but what is important? Your concepts are linked with sense experience, and one of the sense experiences you have, it is the word. The word is sensible, no? The word is something you can hear, you can write, you can see the word. So, in fact, my ideas are abstract, even they are spiritual, though they have no space and time. But what makes my idea be in space and time, it is my imagination. My imagination keeps the image used by my intellect. You cannot think dog without referring at least to the word God, a dog that is sensible, and referring to some image of dog, indirectly to some sense experience of dog. That means it is important to have a language, to process. And sometimes we see that when you study language, chapter 8. Sometimes you say, oh, I know, but I have no word to express that, no? So the teacher say, 0, huh? I know! Yes, but you know, but I cannot judge what you know. I judge what you write. It is important to have a rich vocabulary. And the problem in some languages, they don't have abstract language. For example, in Cameroon, we have 262 dialects in the country. And the Protestants are trying to translate the Bible in all those languages. The problem is many languages have no abstract word to express concept. They have no. So they have to use analogy, metaphor, you know. And that complicates the thing. It was the same. Look at English. Huh? Look at your, not your language, but the English language. You can find immediately that the abstract word does not come from Anglo-Saxon. All the abstract words come from Latin to French. Is the reason why 40% of the words in your dictionary are French. Because the abstract word did not exist. You know, the Saxon, the Anglo, they were not strong in philosophy. They were strong in the sword. Huh? Not in the speed, but philosophy, theology. So when they evangelize, when they create university in Cambridge, Oxford, they have to create a new language. And the new language was taken from another language. Even Latin. How many words in Latin come from the Greek? In fact, those who invented the abstract term in our languages are the Greek. Is the reason why, if you want to understand English, to understand French, you have to study Greek. At least 3 roots, at least that. That my ideas are carried by words or images, something. Every idea is at that. And that is important. You know why? Because when you teach, when you preach, if you want your parishioner to understand, what you will use term they understand. You will use picture, images, they understand. I will not use in my homily ontological truth. I will not use, I can use that with you because you know. The idea are carried by words. So that's an interesting question. Huh? The idea are spiritual. In fact, an idea is a formal. Its nature is only to indicate. Now, do you know the image of your of me on your retina? No, but you know through that image. You know thing through the concept, and the concept you know that through the phantasm. But the phantasm is a sign. The phantasm has no existence in itself. It's immaterial, but its function it is to indicate a thing. We have the image of dog. You cannot take, unless you cannot take the image on the mirror. Oh, I am so beautiful, I want to kiss myself. Who did that? Who did that? Narcissism. Yes, that is. Well, sometimes, okay, nobody will tell. Well, you know, I'm not too. It's not too bad. We cannot catch that. We cannot catch the phantasm, but it must be there in its reality to indicate. That means my concept are linked with a phantasm, and that phantasm is linked with a sense experience. And that is excessively important. That means the proof our knowledge is objective. Our knowledge is measured not by my mind, but by the reality. I am measured by thing and not the measure of thing. And that is excessively important. Why? Because that is the root of relativism is here. If you are measured by nature, the order of nature, the order of existence, you are not the master of your own moral activity. You don't decide what is human. You don't decide that abortion is good or not, and that gay marriage is good or not. You go to the nature. But if the knowledge comes from you, you have no contact with the reality, but all the truth comes from myself, idealism, you can decide what is good, what is not good. And that is the foundation of democracy. In democracy, there is no universal magisterium. The magisterium in democracy is the number 50 plus 1. Today in Scotland, or yesterday they voted, they don't know the result. But the will, the general will of Jean-Jacques Rousseau. So the criterion of truth, the criterion of morality is not no more the conformity to the reality, is the conformity to the majority of those who have that opinion. That means we are here. So that class is excessively important because ethics, politics, all that depend on the interpretation, the way you know. If my knowledge is purely subjective and your knowledge is purely subjective, can we have a common truth? No. We can by accident. There is no possibility of magisterium. That is the reason why even those who fight for faith, for respect of life, you will fight for years and years and years as long as the democracy will exist. That is the principle of tolerance taught by John Locke. And John Locke inspired democracy. Tolerance. You think that? You're right on your side. I think the opposite. I am right on my side. So you have to try not to kill one another. Huh? You have to tolerate. So you want to impose your ideas. So that means that is the limit of democracy. Why? Because we don't accept we are measured by reality. And when we are measured by reality, we are measured by the same reality. Therefore, we can accept a magisterium, a common definition of things, a common teacher. In the Catholic Church, we don't have relativism. We have dogmatism. That means one interpreter of the reality. We refer to the same nature. To the same nature. Here, it's funny, in the modern world, people don't want to refer to nature. Why? Because if we refer to nature, we have We are measured by nature. We are no more the magisterium, the master of our destiny. And that shows you the extreme importance of philosophy. You know Hitler? What is the philosopher under Hitler? Hegel, but at the Nietzsche. The will of power. The philosophy under Stalin and Lenin and Pol Pot and Ho Chi Minh. Marx never took a gun, he never killed a neighbor. On the contrary, he was helping the poor. But because of his idea, Pol Pot killed millions of people, Stalin, Ho Chi Minh, no? Think about that. If I am the master of my truth, and you're my brother, I can impose my truth only through violence. I is this, is that. They want to impose to everyone, okay? And now when you understand, when you express to yourself, now you can go back to nature. We start from nature, existence, and we go back to existence, and we express that in the language. Chapter 8, very important, language. And that is the word, or verbal expression. But, what is interesting? When you receive a word, I teach you, you receive my words, no? It is here. My word are the beginning of a new process. Every word you tell to another is a sensible reality. We can record the word. We can measure the frequency of the word. So therefore, the word is the thing, and it falls on the hearing, and you have to abstract from the word the idea. That means every word I tell you, I say now, you are abstracting it. Your mother speaks to you. She said, "Take." Go and take the cow and bring the cow to the farm. When she said that, you are abstract, that is the concept cow, the concept farm, the concept to bring. No? That means you did all that process every time you receive information. You see something, you listen to something, continually you are doing that. But what is interesting for a metaphysician, for a philosopher, is not the description. I describe. The most important for a philosopher is the causality. What is philosophy? The search for the ultimate causes of things. So what are the causes? Efficient cause, no? So what is producing knowledge? And we need a projector, agent, intellect. We need a slide, the phantasm. We need both. You write now. Do you write with your finger? You write with a pencil. Does your pencil write? No? No, that is contrary to the reality. When your pencil write, you write something. No. Your pencil, right? My chart. I wrote all that. My chart. Alone? No. With me. You write. If you have no pencil, can you write? No. So the pencil is an instrumental cause. Instrumental cause. And your intellect is the efficient cause, the principle, the principle, efficient cause, and here is the instrumental efficient cause. Instrument, tool. A tool is producing something according to its nature. An instrument, for example, you are a good musician. Somebody told me you play very well the guitar. So I say, play. But you will say, Father, I have no guitar. So I give you a guitar. But the guitar is not well adjusted. What you will say? This guitar does not play well. This piano does not play well because it's not tuned. That means the action is made by both. It's made by the guitarist, the player, the musician. It's made also by the instrument. And that is very important in philosophy. Apply that to the sacrament, for example. Sacrament of Eucharist. Huh? What is the principal efficient cause? What is the instrumental efficient cause of the sacrament? Is the priest the principal efficient cause?
No.
No, it's Jesus Christ, it's the Holy Spirit. Huh? And the priest is the instrument. Therefore, some instrument can be intelligent, and some instruments are not intelligent. That makes things complicated, no? Never use your pencil will say, no, I am tired. I work too much, now I go and strike. No, your pencil has no freedom. But suppose I have an employee. The employee are the instrument for the success of the company. And they say, to the boss, no, enough is enough. Huh? So, we can have a human being can be an instrument, and a thing can be an instrument. So the thing becomes very complex. Huh? Okay? So that is the causality. The causality, because some philosophers, they affirm that the thing, the object, is not the cause of knowledge. Like Father Malebranche. Father Malebranche, it is Oratorian, Malebranche, the disciple of Descartes. He said things are only an occasion. You see a lion, the lion is only an occasion to know that is a lion. Because you already know what is a lion. Of course, if you close here, you have to find some explanation. We know because we have a first source of knowledge, my mind, because we have also sense experience. We have the phantasm, which is the success of the sense experience. Well, with that, you have already A to your oral exam. In fact, what I will ask you, you can take that. I want you to explain to me how we know, how we form a concept. Because you will have to explain that maybe a day. And that is useful, even in theology. In theology, how do we call Jesus? The word of God. Verbum, no? The verbum. The expression of the Father. The expression. And when St. John Baptist speaks about Jesus, he said, I am the voice, he is the word. He is the content, I am only the blah, blah, blah. The word. So philosophy has a lot of application. So try to understand that, to understand the causality, to understand everything. I don't ask you to define, to recite, explain me that. And I will help you. If you are not able, I will help you to question. Because I am a student, I have the right to ask questions. Okay? Don't be afraid. Huh? Don't be afraid. But it is, for me, it is the most important class of all. Your class of philosophy is today. It's the most important because all the rest depend on that. I insist on that because sometimes, we study philosophy, history, like things separated. No, they are linked. No, they are linked. All the parts of philosophy are linked. And the starting point of, how I know, how the word, the external word can enter my mind. How I can express my mind to the world. That is intellection. Okay? Well, I will not explain everything because you have. I go to page 2, 2.2. St. Thomas speaks about tabula rasa. My patient intellect here at the beginning is like a table without nothing on it. Rasa, razor, to cut. Nothing. Okay? And that intellect, that tabula rasa, is impressed by the illumination of the phantasm. So on one side, I am active. On the other side, I am passive. I pass from potency to act. Another thing interesting here. What do you apply here? You apply the category action and passion. Those who are in logic with me, action and passion. Action and passion, but not at the same point of view. Okay. Now, just after that, 2.3. One of the conditions to know, we said that many times. How is possible that the tomato and orange or lion enter my mind? Because my senses first, because of a certain degree of immateriality. So immateriality is a condition to know. And when you look at that, what is knowledge? Your knowledge is the union of my powers, sense power, external, internal power, and my intellect. It is your union with the object. And don't forget, intentional union. Intentional union. The thing, the object, become myself. I assimilate. I make myself what? Not the matter. The elephant stays out there. The form. And that form, at the end, it becomes the concept. The concept. The form of a sensible thing, at the end, it becomes the concept of any dog, any cat, any kangaroo. Okay? And that is abstraction. Here you have also the category of action and passion, and also linked to that in metaphysics, passage from potency to act.
Can you repeat the immaterial thing again real quick, Father?
Immateriality is the root of knowledge. Immateriality is the root of knowledge. The essential condition. If there is no immaterial presentation of the thing, I can know. But how I can arrive to immateriality? Through abstraction, or through taking the form of the thing. I don't take the wood of the desk, I take the form of the desk in my mind. You see an elephant, you have the form of the elephant, not the matter. That is immateriality. Be careful. Not every immaterial thing is spiritual. So here, the immateriality I have in my sense is not spiritual. It is depending directly on something sensible and singular. But here, because I detach my knowledge of the thing from any particular thing, I'm totally independent of matter, I have a spiritual concept. My concept is not only immaterial, my concept is spiritual. My concept is totally detached from matter. And that is important. Why? How can you know that you are immortal? If your soul is spiritual. How you can know that your soul is spiritual? Through its activities. And one of the activities of the soul is to think. So if your thoughts are spiritual, therefore your soul is spiritual. And if your soul is spiritual, your soul is incorruptible, your soul is immortal, But we study that in the future. But everything is linked with everything. You don't forget that. Well, next, the power of, I explained that by page 7. The insight, I spoke about that. Okay, page 8. The causality. Okay. I spoke about the causality. I gave you the theory of Aristotle. In that theory, explanation of Aristotle was adopted by St. Thomas. It's interesting to see that some saints, even doctor of the church, like St. Augustine, like St. Bonaventure, they are here. St. Anselm is here. And they are doctor of the church. that proves that there is not only one philosophy for the Catholic Church. And John Paul II is very clear on that. He wrote a letter about. He said there is no unique philosophy for the Catholic Church. Himself was not a Thomist, he was a personalist, and his master was a Jew, Buber, Mr. Buber. So that is interesting, very important. We see saints and doctors of the church on both sides. Are you scandalized? There's someone they are scandalized. You are scandalized if you take philosophy as a dogma. Philosophy is not dogmatism. Philosophy is search for the truth, and there are many rooms in my Father's house. Of course, here we privilege in the seminary, we privilege Aristotle, and we privilege St. Thomas. But St. Augustine privileged Plato. And he explained many things to Plato. You know, not everything in Aristotle can be conformed to the faith. We see that, huh? When he said that God created the world, God cannot take care of the world after, because if he takes care of the world, he will be distracted in his contemplation. So we cannot accept that theory. Of course, St. Thomas did the same thing as St. Augustine. St. Augustine took from Plato what was Christian. He Christianized that. Huh? And St. Thomas took from Aristotle what is able to adapt to the faith, but he did not accept everything. He cannot. Because every philosopher is a human being. We are not the revelation. No? So we have to find in every philosopher what is good to make a discernment. No? A discernment. That is important to study history of philosophy, not to condemn them, and to try to understand why those people who were intelligent, they were genius, why they thought in that manner. Of course, I'm sure you don't like Karl Marx. But I admire Karl Marx. Yes, scandalized? Karl Marx is a great thinker, he's a great genius. He makes error, of course, but in his thought it is very coherent. In the success of Marxism, it is the coherence of the system. You know? We have to find why my enemy is successful. Why it is good in that, but is not good also. Of course, I don't approve. I don't canonize Karl Marx. Huh? We have to find that. Not everything is stupid. And when somebody thinks not everything is stupid, in every error there is a large part of truth. So that is in fact, philosophy should be, especially history of philosophy. I think it's very important to form your judgment. To understand why the first Greek, they believed in the four elements. And during centuries, thousands of years, all chemistry was reduced to four elements. Why? There is a reason for that. Why some people are skeptic? Why some people they deny God today? Why they are convinced that atheism is the real answer to the reality? That is philosophy. Philosophy is not to learn by heart what St. Thomas said, or Aristotle said, or Plato said. It is to find the truth. What is the truth? The conformity of my mind to the reality. Therefore, what is important? Before studying your mind, you have to study the reality. So you have to study physics, biology. That is important. In fact, philosophy is the coronation of all the studies. To study philosophy, we should know history, we should know geography, we should know literature. After that, you can go to, you have the element to know the object, to know the reality, and after that, you can judge the reality. Okay? So that is very important. And important for us as philosophers, it is to find the causality in everything. The research for causes. Huh? The research for causes. Okay. Page 9, the formal sign, I explained that. The formal sign, it is a sign that has no matter. The crucifix here has matter, but it designs something else. Christianity, Jesus Christ in his gospel, etc. But a formal sign is only existing as a sign. Pure sign. No matter. Immaterial. Immaterial in the case of phantasm, and spiritual in the case of the concept. Our concepts are spiritual. Of course, Marx and Hume and Locke will not accept that. But you know, we affirm that because we have reason to affirm that. We don't affirm that because the Pope said that. In philosophy, the argument of authority has no value. No value at all. That was a big problem for the church. Well, the church condemned Galileo because they based their affirmation on Mr. Aristotle, you know, and we pay for that today. And we continue to pay for that. Page 9. So the explanation of formal sign. 9, opponent to moderate realism. So I read. This point is crucial to understand the position of St. Thomas. It is the fundamental difference. I told you, it is the switch where the train takes a difference. Even for St. Thomas, first is the most important problem. Here. I continue. And now is separate from, for example, Locke, Berkeley, Jung, Kant, all those who are not, those who are idealists or empiricists. They are outside of the position. In fact, position of St. Thomas, as Aristotle, is moderate realism. That means my concepts are not pure reality, like Plato said. My concepts are not pure matter, nominalism. My concepts are both. A part of my concept depends on material thing. A part of my concept depends on my own power of abstraction. Moderate realism. Plato is exaggerate realism. Why? Because the ideas are the reality. And when we call reality, for him it is the shadow. You study that in the cave, the myth of the cave. I go to the middle now. So one cannot consciously proceed from mind to thing. We can. The position of St. Thomas it is we cannot start from my mind, only from my mind to know. I cannot say I think, therefore I exist. I think about something. Pure thought does not exist. There is only one pure thought existing in itself, it is God. All the other thoughts have an object of thinking. Only God can think himself. He is the thought thinking himself. But we are the thought thinking other things. And when we think about ourselves, it is because first we know other things. In fact, we know ourselves through the knowledge of others. You know, through your sense experiences. How you can know you can run? When you use your legs. How you can know you can smell a rose? When you smell. How you can know you dream? When you dream. So we know ourselves through our contact with the reality. Okay? It is so true that if a child is not real with human being, you know the case in India, discovered a boy, he was adopted by wolves. That is a fact, it's a historical fact. He was adopted by wolves. And when he was discovered, he was about maybe 10 or 10 years old, something like that. He was not able to say a single word. What he knew only to woo. Why? Because we learn to talk, we learn to form our concept through the contact with the object, with the external world. That is a good proof against Descartes. I cannot know without a direct contact with the reality. My knowledge, I process in my mind, comes from my senses. And that's the central affirmation in Aristotelian philosophy. Nihil in nothing in intellectu, nothing in my mind, if first is not in my senses. That is a principle, fundamental principle that is there. Okay? 8.3. It was to avoid the okay. In fact, what is the likeness, what is the similitude, what is the phantasm of that? It is the sign, the likeness, which indicate what is a thing. Like a picture, you remember a painter in France painted a big pipe, and he wrote under the pipe, "This is not a pipe." He painted the pipe, he said, "This is not a pipe." He was right. Philosophically speaking, it is not a pipe, it is an image of a pipe. When you look at yourself in the mirror, it is not you. It is the image of you. In fact, never you can see you directly. You never be able to be the own object of your sight. You need always something objective. Interesting, huh? You cannot have the pure knowledge of yourself by yourself. You need a mirror, you need a picture. Huh? You see, it's me. Yes, it's you. It's
beautiful.
I did not know I looked like that. No? Okay. Now the explanation of St. Thomas, page 10, number 9.3. Well, it is exactly what I told you here. Everything I told you is there. The necessity of immateriality. Page 11, it is the causality. I all explain that. In fact, when you read the text now and you have that, you should assimilate. You should be able to understand. Everything is here. Intentional union, I spoke about that. Page 12, I spoke about the active intellect. You have that, page 12. And what I did not maybe spoke enough, it is the position of the other, but that's the history of philosophy. Here, Father Reichmann uses three analogies. The analogy of an X-ray. Well, I use the analogy of the slide, but it's the same. Okay, you can read that by yourself. Page 13 analogy. Page 14. Now they apply that, and that is the central is of causality is here. Page 14. The active intellect function not as formal, but as an agent efficient cause. You know. The intellectual knowledge is the junction of two worlds, So the intellect act is mediated through sensory experience. That means my knowledge passes through my senses. In fact, we are in accord with Marx, with all materialistic. We know through our senses, but we don't stop there. For Lenin, the thought is the secretion of the brain, but we go further than that because the brain is material. But my ideas are immaterial, and my concepts are not only immaterial, they are totally dematerialized, they are spiritual. Okay? And after page 15, you have the position of St. Thomas compared with Descartes. Which is only subjective, because they are only here. Nothing depends on the object. They are only on the side of the subject, and they don't want to take care of the senses. Because if you take care of the senses, you take an account the senses, you take an account the external reality as condition to know. And they don't want that. They want to know only here, to be the master of their knowledge. John Locke, yeah, we can read that. In fact, he has the influence of nominalism. You don't forget nominalism. There is no universal concept. There is only name. Was started in England. It had a great influence in the Protestantism. In fact, Protestantism is the spiritual son of nominalism. Nominalism. Berkeley is totally opposite. He does not recognize the senses. He recognizes only the mind. He said to exist is to be known. Esse as percipi, to be perceived by senses. Okay? So flowers don't exist. The lion in the forest, the bear in the forest, does not exist as long as you don't know it. But when you know it, it's too late. You cannot pass your examination. It will be a good meal. And page 17, I have 1 minute for Kant. So Kant recognized the necessity of senses. But he said, the knowledge does not come from the senses. It comes from my mind, which puts in the thing, in the senses, the form of time and space. So it is a midway between, he wanted to be midway between Descartes, which is purely intellectual, and Jung, which is purely sensualist, empiricist. He wanted to be between that. So, and to help you, I give you here a chart, and you have the different authors. What they have in common, what they have is different. On the position of Aristotle, and after that the position of Descartes. Yes, yes, no, no, dependent if they have or don't have that. That can be helpful to you if you study modern philosophy. Those who study modern philosophy, that will be very useful. Because one of the problems in modern philosophy is also problem of knowledge. Okay, so congratulations, nobody slept. Of course, no. That means your intellect work a lot. I see that because I see the smoke coming out of it. Okay, have a good weekend. And next time we will study judgment, the judgment.
That's another question for you.
So,
Yes.
how would Father Legault say this? Would you say, I exist, therefore I know? How would you say that I exist?
No, I will not say exist. I know, I have senses, I have experience, therefore I exist. I know my existence through my activity. Do you know you exist when you sleep?
No.
You exist, but you don't know.
Sometimes when we.
Yes, brother.
So if you're trying to remember something from your imagination or memory, the agent or the active memory or the active intellect has to grasp.
Yes, all the time. You know, you have an image here. If you want to abstract, you are obliged to continue. But that is done. No, now we analyze.
Right.
But
That's
that
a
is
picture, yeah.
natural.
And then the abstraction gets put back into the imagination through external.
Yes. For example, I say the word justice. Justice is a word. So that word is here now. Here on your ear. So you have to find some image. We refer to the past about what is justice. You form a phantasm of justice with a balance, you know, and after that you abstract that. In fact, continually when you talk, when you have taught, when you receive a message, you are doing that. Continually.
And because your imagination can combine everything, it can create new
It
phantasms.
combine only sense experience.
Senses, but it can combine those experiences. It can create new phantasms.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It is creativity, the power of creativity of the imagination. It is incredible. Why our imagination is so powerful for men and not for cats? Because we are intelligent. We can detach the sense experience and we can universalize that. Newton saw one apple falling on the floor, and now everything falling on the world now is universal, abstract and universal. We can apply that to everything. The power of man is incredible.
Thank you.
Okay? So, judging next time.